You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Hey, welcome everybody. Today I'm here once again with Doug from The Rational Capitalist, and we have so much to talk about in this first episode of 2019. Hey, Doug.
Hello. We certainly do have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, lots going on. First, we're going to play jokes like we always do, and since a joke actually made the news this past week, I'm going to start with that. Here's a leaked set from Louis C.K. that has stirred up a lot of outrage.
Generation, honestly, because I'm 51 years old, and when I was like 18 to my 20s, I mean, we were idiots. We were getting high, doing fucking mushrooms and shit, and then older people were like, you gotta get your shit together, and we were like, yeah, fuck you. And I was kind of excited to be in my 50s and see people in their 20s and be like, they're crazy. These kids are nuts, but they're not. They're fucking, they're just boring. Fucking tell them, you shouldn't say that. What are you, an old lady? What the fuck are you doing? It's not appropriate. Fuck you, you're a child. Why are you finger fucking each other and doing jello shots? Like, why aren't you? You should address me. They're like royalty. They tell you what to call them. How come you should address me as they, them? Because I identify as gender neutral. Okay. You should address me as there. Because I identify as a location. And the location is your mother's cunt.
Doesn't have to be that nasty. But it can be.
In front of Congress, these kids? Like, what the fuck? What are you doing? You're young. You should be crazy. You should be unhinged. Not in a suit saying, I'm here to tell. Fuck you. You're not interesting. Because you went to a high school where kids got shot? Why does that mean I have to listen to you? How does that make you interesting? You didn't get shot. You pushed some fat kid in the way. Now I gotta listen to you talking?
Oh, sorry. I was actually taking it from another person's video. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, hilarious.
Nice. So good.
And I'm glad, it's just nice to hear him again after all the Me Too stuff. And, Louis,
totally.
I don't have as big a problem with him and what he did because everything he did was consensual. And he didn't really touch anybody. He jerked off in front of people, and he asked their permission first. Hey, will you watch me jerk off? And some women said yes. And maybe some women felt pressured to because he was a big star. But I guess he's been doing this since he was, not a big star. And is it weird and perverted? Yes. I don't understand this. I don't understand the psychology of that. But it does not rise to the level of assault.
By the way, when you ask someone if you can masturbate in front of them, it's pretty much a rhetorical question, right?
I don't know. Is it? Is he already whipping it out?
I don't think no is in the equation.
I thought that he was asking and they gave permission and then he would do it. I didn't hear any account of him just whipping it out and saying, hey, can I do this?
Yeah, it's probably not cool. It's a little eccentric.
Yes. And my worst Me Too story is this guy kind of luring me into a business meeting under false pretenses and then propositioning me to go away with him and basically be his hooker, And he was married with kids. And I was really upset and I was shaking. Of course I said no. And I was shaking and really upset, and it was awful. But also, I wasn't there. He lied to me. to get me to go. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it was.
Yeah.
So I see what Louis C.K. did. Like, if I was, not a top comedian and looking to him for some sort of career advancement and thinking, wow, I've met Louis C.K. Oh, wow, he invited me back to his hotel room. First of all, ladies, that's it right there. Like, when a guy invites you to his hotel room, there's going to be something. I mean, wake up, right?
Right.
If he then asks if he can masturbate in front of you, you're surprised? So, no. Anyway.
Well, these people are screwed up people. I mean,
yeah.
And he didn't assault anyone. I mean,
no. So I don't think
this is like, it's perverted.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that unusual in these circles, like entertainment circles, for this shit to happen.
It's not like Kevin Spacey, who you're glad is gone.
Yeah, it's creepy. Yeah, he's like a pedophile.
I don't know if you saw his video too, not to change the subject, but he came out with this video where he got into the character of Frank from House of Cards and basically talked about his own case. At least that's what I think he was doing. And it was so weird. It was creepy as F. Creepy as
F.
Okay. So
I didn't even know that it was. I didn't even know what he was doing until I was like, "Is this really happening? Is this what he's doing?"
And he's wearing this little Christmas apron. It's like, you don't even take seriously what people are saying about you, or what you've been accused of. He doesn't take it seriously. He thinks it's all hilarious. Here I am in a Christmas apron doing my character on YouTube in the middle of getting indicted for molesting children. Okay. So, all right. So Louis C.K. makes that joke. The world explodes. And the criticism is mostly along the lines like this. CNN's title is, Louis C.K.'s Parkland joke is what happens when comedy fails. And I'm sorry, but comedy fails when people don't laugh. Like, that's the only time comedy fails. Comedy fails when you hear crickets in the audience. Otherwise, it's a success. Sorry to break it to you. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but people were laughing pretty hard in that clip.
Hell yeah.
So
they loved it.
Especially that one where he says, I identify as there, and there is your mother's cunt. When he says that, the belly laughing that comes out of the audience, you can hear it, look it up and listen to it again and just pay attention to the audience. And people are loving it. So, sorry, CNN, that comedy didn't fail, whether you like it or not. That went over like, hotcakes.
Yeah, people loved it. And I think it's awesome.
And I tried looking up, like, what are other comedians saying about him? And I didn't see much. The only thing I saw when I kind of Googled that was Ricky Gervais actually came to his defense. And I'll just read you what he said. He says, there's no subject out of bounds. People often get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target. It all depends on the joke. And by the way, even if he is targeting the Parkland kids who came out and did their activism after the shooting, they deserve it. There are a lot of people in the United States that do not like those kids for their message and their policy and their arrogance, especially that hog kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to make fun of that. Sorry, but that's funny. And then Ricky says, as you probably guessed, I'm not a religious person, but my favorite line in the Bible is, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. It basically means, oh, shut the fuck up. You're a cunt too sometimes. Thanks, Jesus. And then lastly, making my point, he says, remember, kids, you should only laugh at a joke and only if you find it funny. That's what it's all about, you guys. Comedy is not people are treating comedy as something weird, like uncomedy. It's comedy if people are laughing, and you can joke about anything. And somebody brought up that guy, I forget his name, the guy who played Kramer on Seinfeld, and how he said the N-word. But no, he was yelling at an audience member, calling an audience member a nigger. He was screaming that at the audience member. That was not a joke. It was not part of
Right.
a set. That was him using the N-word at somebody. So that's just different. That's totally different.
So I was reading like TMZ and The Atlantic and Slate and these kind of left-wing takes on Louis C.K.'s set, and it was just so awful. It was like vomit. Like Louis C.K., he's, instead of pushing people up, he's pushing them down.
Yeah.
He's no longer truth telling with his comedy. Like there's some like philosophical import to the comedian that needs to be adjudicated by these philosopher kings. And if they don't find the message, the inner message, as they perceive it to be illuminating and uplifting, somehow, then that's not what comedy is. What the hell is this? Is this like a lecture, like or a commencement day ceremony? I mean, come on, man.
Comedy has never ever been that. Okay, so to that point, here's Louis C.K. From just a couple of years ago in 2015 when he did that controversial SNL monologue, and I'm just going to play the clip that got him the most controversy. And before I do that, I just want to say, Louis C.K. is a genius comic, and I saw this monologue that he did, and it was like I couldn't believe he was making a joke about pedophilia. Like I laughed more out of shock than that it was funny, but it is funny. And what I thought was great about it was this is a great comedian seeing what he can do. Like that's what that was to me. Here's Louis C.K. who's mastered the art of stand-up. What's he going to do next to push himself? He's going to say, can I get people to laugh at a joke from the perspective of a pedophile? Yes, he can. Okay, so it's going to take me a second to just bring this up. Okay.
Because child molesters are very tenacious people. They love molesting childs. It's crazy. It's like their favorite thing. I mean, it's so crazy because when you consider the risk in being a child molester, speaking not of even the damage you're doing, but the risk, there is no worse life available to a human than being a caught child molester. And yet they still do it. Which you can only really surmise that it must be really good. I mean, from their point of view, it must be amazing for them to risk so much.
Oh my God, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my God, uncomfortable. So that guy he did that in 2015. Nobody has a problem.
No,
but make
in fact,
fun of the Parkland shooter kids and the ones who didn't get shot, the ones who pushed the fat kid in the way, like you said. And then they come out like old ladies scolding us and telling us what to do and like what rights they want to take away from us.
Yeah.
And they are old ladies. Like this millennial generation, they are old ladies.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
It is brilliant. It was a good set. So those were some good jokes.
I like the fact that he, at one point, just had this sort of visceral grunt. Like he goes, these kids today, they're just like, That's just
right.
like, isn't that like the perfect way to describe those kids? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Twits. Yeah, so anyway, it was a great set and just more, I love this. Like, I love this. Attack comedy. Keep attacking it. I mean, on the one hand, I think stop it. But on the other hand, I think they really are going to push everybody over to our side. Like this, you just can't. Louis C.K. comedians, Kevin Hart gets kicked off the Oscars. The Oscars still hasn't named a replacement host. And I was reading this Hollywood Reporter article on the whole thing, and they're like, well, it can't be this person because of this, and it can't, and they're going through this like long list of why the person isn't appropriate, they're problematic, and it's like listing everybody with talent. So yeah, talent. If you're talented, that means you're creative and kind of kooky, and you push boundaries, and you're interesting.
Do you remember when there was a Simpsons episode where these corporate types create this character? It was called Punky the dog or whatever his name was. I forgot exactly what his name was, but he was this like cool hip dog, and the corporate execs are like, we have to Rostify him by 14%. They just created this. They were like doing these focus groups. It was like this amalgam of all these
what's
hip
cool
cliches.
Yeah.
What's cool, and so they had to Rostify the kid by like 14%. And I think that's what they are going to have to create now for this piece, for the PC culture. It'll be like 13% non-binary, 17% trans, 13% Native American. It'll have to be like they can go through the DNA, and they'll just create this sort of like automaton that comes out and tells a perfectly appropriate jokes that's been vetted by the corporate executives or something, so no one's offended.
Yeah, about a month ago, a comedian got taken off stage by the organizers of the event at a college. And then, the kids were like laughing and stuff, but the organizers were a bunch of feminists, and they decided his joke was problematic. And it was a joke about race, but he's East Indian, first of all.
Yeah, right.
And
I remember
then
this.
The joke was about how hard it is to be black. Like, it was actually an empathetic toward black people and their experience of racism. The joke was. So it wasn't like against anybody. It was really empathetic to black people. And
shut it down.
And they literally got out the hook and pulled him off stage. They just walked up, took the mic from him, and fired him on the spot.
I think it's great. I think it's really, like you said, they're forcing this Manichaean choice of either you're for civil liberty and you're for freedom of speech, or you're
fun.
not.
Forget all that stuff.
Right.
Are you for
well,
fun?
That's the same thing. I mean, right. But yes, and it's those things put on the level of fun and entertainment.
Right.
Because those things are an aspect of liberty. The fact that we can laugh and have comedians is a function of our freedom. Like, there are no comedians in dictatorships. So this is like the most marginal aspect of having a free society are entertainers and comedians and people who are funny. And the fact that we have this industry of entertainment is sort of a celebration of our, and it's a testament to the benefits of living in a free society,
Right.
and here, these people are going after the best people in those genres to the point where, Kevin Hart, for God's sakes, and Louis C.K. and, Jerry Seinfeld.
Chris Rock, because he got in trouble recently because he allowed a white man to use the N-word in front of him on this HBO special from 7 years ago.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. And it was Louis C.K., I think.
It was Louis C.K., and then Ricky Gervais did it, and Seinfeld was the only one who didn't say it. And that is, by the way, if you haven't seen that, it's an HBO sit-down of those 4 top comics.
Yeah, it's great.
And it is a great hour. It is so fun and interesting. And someone unearths that and is like, Chris Rock is problematic. Like, he's like the house nigga for sitting there and letting the white man say the N-word. It's just like, oh, my God, you people have got to get over yourselves.
But it's certainly sorting them and collating them into this like real totalitarian camp of scolds, where, and I think just for the normal guy on the street, rather than like having a real philosophical debate about this, it really makes it perceptual level that these people are like, witch burning Puritans. They're just horrible. They're just bad people.
They are like witch burning Puritans. And the irony is, when we were kids, it was the religious fringy right that was trying to censor things, and and I remember how they were mocked, by mainstream culture, and now we're here, and it has happened so fast. There's no frog boiling in the water or whatever. I mean, this is like we've gone from you could basically do whatever, as long as you were funny, you could do whatever. Just make it funny. to, now everything's off limits. And there was a Joe Rogan podcast with Bill Burr just the other day too, where Bill Burr was like, I've got comedians telling me, you can't joke about that. You can't joke about that. He's like, fuck you. So, I mean, it's behind the scenes too. Bill Burr, a famous A-lister comedian, is being told by other comics what he can and can't say.
Oh my God. That's sick.
It's sick.
That's great. But those are the people that are on the front lines of these culture wars, and they're the ones that need to feel it and push back. And I think anyone that stands up to this is a hero. Yeah. The people that back down to it, like Amy Schumer and those types that have completely drank the Kool-Aid, are despicable.
She's despicable and not funny anymore. And
right.
the way that she's not funny is being made fun of. There was a South Park episode about how Amy Schumer just now, all she says is vagina, vagina, vagina. My vagina, my vagina, my vagina. Because that's the only thing that isn't off limits, for her to talk about is how gross her vagina is. Ugh. So, yeah. Okay, so we have a joke on the voicemail. Joke man sent in a joke. Let's play that now. Okay, play. I don't know why it's not playing.
Poor joke man has to follow Louis C.K.
I know, right?
Good job.
Sorry about that. Well, it's playing, but hang on. I'm having so much trouble with this one. Oh my gosh, you can't hear it at all. I'll have to figure that out and play it next time or something. I can't get the volume up. All right, so moving on. If you want to tell us a joke for next week, if you want to try to be like Louis C.K., call the number 707-681-5834, and we'll play it because we play them all. So it's New Year's. Let's talk about resolutions for a second. Did you make any?
No.
Yeah, the older you get, you're like, whatever. Right?
I don't believe in that. I mean,
did you
it's
before
sort of like
when you were younger?
No, I think the idea to me is sort of like the starvation diet, where, okay, suddenly I want to lose weight, so I'm just going to starve myself for 3 days. That doesn't work.
Unless you're
you
getting
just have
a colonoscopy, right, Doug?
Exactly.
That's what you said on the last show.
All right, so I'm contradicting myself a little bit. Not really.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the point is that you just have to choose a life that makes sense. And I guess it's okay to have resolutions, but I think it's kind of dumb because, everyone is going to do all these things and then they don't do them. Just do good stuff all the time.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to reflect on maybe what ruts you're in and maybe some good habits that you want to try to start creating. I think people promise to themselves and they get a little crazy, like I'm going to work out three times a week when you don't work out at all.
Yeah. Maybe you should just get a gym bag. Just get your gym bag out this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or
just baby steps.
Or go for a little walk or join the gym.
Yeah.
And I found that if you join a gym and you don't join the best one there is with the lounge and the smoothies and the Wi-Fi, and then just start hanging out there rather than a coffee shop.
Don't work out, but hang out.
Don't work out. Just go there to hang out, have a smoothie, get on the computer.
Seriously.
I'm not kidding. And then eventually you'll be like, oh, there's a class, and oh, look at this. And you'll be buying clothes out of their pro shop, and next thing you know, you'll be exercising. If you surround yourself with that vibe, it kind of just will happen.
It's like a slippery slope to exercise.
Yeah, right. A positive slippery slope.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't really make any resolutions, but but this isn't really prompted by the fact that it's a new year, but I am going to rethink how I do social media because I am concerned about the privacy stuff, and I'm concerned about Facebook and their whole, I don't know, philosophy about their customers. And I feel like I'm their customer. Right. I don't think they treat us like customers, but I'm their customer. And so also the kids aren't there anymore. Oh, there's something I wanted to say about the kids. So the kids are on Instagram, which is also owned by Facebook. So I don't know what to do about that.
Is it? Okay.
But the new app is TikTok. And that's this little video. It's like almost like a Vine app. And all the Gen Zers are over there, not the millennials, but the Gen Zers. And I don't know too much about it. I'm going to check it out. But apparently the favorite thing of the Gen Z is to poke fun at PC.
Nice.
So we might have some relief from the real youngsters, the high schoolers that are coming up. There's a backlash. I mean, really, kids always rebel against the culture. They always want to be edgy and counterculture. Well, what is counterculture and edgy today? I tell you, it is not advocating for gun control on Capitol Hill.
Right. That's counterculture.
That's mainstream culture. So these younger kids apparently are really making fun of. They're pretending to be really misogynistic and different things. So anyway, if anyone wants to check out TikTok, that might be interesting. So yeah, I'm just going to rethink what I'm doing. I think I'm going to maybe shut down my personal profile on Facebook, and just manage my professional page there, and maybe go over to Instagram. So, and stop doing too much personal stuff.
I think everyone's pushing back, though. But I think this year is the year of the pushback.
Yeah.
And you're starting it, like this Louis C.K. thing, where people are belly laughing, and you're talking about the Gen Z kids, and, you're rethinking your social media account. And I know that we're going to talk later about Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin leaving Patreon and all this stuff. It just seems like everyone's saying, all right, it's time to do something different.
I've had it. This is getting horrible. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the people in those circles are, the walk away type people that are even abandoning it, just gone way too far.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's a small percentage of people, vocal assholes who are these real SJWs who are on, the fact that we let Twitter trolls run our society is what's wrong here.
Yeah. The power of morality.
Somebody who's a nobody sitting in his basement is able to take down Kevin Hart. It's like that shouldn't even be possible.
Yeah.
So we've allowed this kind of mob or SJW troll, and we've done it by not, you have to just be like, fuck you. When somebody comes out with Kevin Hart's thing from 10 years ago, there should have been a resounding, what the fuck are you digging up in his thing and trying to ruin his career? Like that should be who we are after and against, are those types, the old ladies, as Louis C.K. says, the scolds. They need to be ridiculed and marginalized so that they stop doing it.
Put the witch burners on trial, not the witches.
Right. So we have a government shutdown. That's the other thing. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think Trump's going to fold. What do you think? What's your prediction?
I think there'll be some, I don't know what folding means. I mean, I think there'll be a compromise of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, because at this point, the Dems can't, or they'll be seen to be collaborating with, like, literally Hitler.
But I don't even know what does this shutdown really mean? I think it's awesome. I mean, if I would say, has anyone noticed that the government's shut down? I haven't. So there's no one there to take my money and piss it down the toilet? Great.
Well, but
Stay home.
They're still taking your money and pissing it down the toilet.
Yeah, well, so it's not even, if there was a shutdown, I'd be really excited. I'd be like,
if there's
wow,
a real shutdown, I'd be like,
finally shut this. We'd celebrate, right?
Yeah.
But they're really, so I don't even know that it is a shutdown. If it is a shutdown, I'd celebrate. If it, apparently there's some sort of like optics around this, like it looks bad for one side or the other. No one cares.
No one cares.
I don't think I think it's great. Shut the thing down forever. For the next year.
Let's shut it down and then realize, oh my God, we don't need this, and not open it back up again.
Yeah,
let's do it that way.
Exactly. Sometimes when that happens, when you think you need all this stuff, and you don't. And that's maybe people will finally realize that.
That reminds me of, I do have a New Year's resolution, and that is to clean out my email inboxes. And I mean, I have hundreds of emails that I just kind of said, I have to do something about that. So I didn't archive it, and it's just sitting there in the inbox. And it's been so long now. I think I'm just going to archive all of them.
So Schumer has a dirty vagina. You have a dirty email inbox. Is that what you're saying?
What? A dirty vagina?
Yeah, Amy Schumer.
Oh.
I said Amy Schumer has a dirty vagina. You have a dirty inbox.
I have no idea how that relates. I don't even get it. I was talking about how you said when you realize that you don't need something, and it's like I'm realizing I'm doing that with my email. I think I'm just going to archive it all, and I probably won't miss it. There's probably nothing in there I'm missing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with vaginas, Doug. I'm sorry.
Well, it was like a dirty box joke, but no, it's true. It's like these things that we store in boxes, like you put them on shelves in your basement and stuff. You think, someday I'm going to look through all this stuff.
Yeah.
You don't.
You never do. Someday I'm going to frame these pictures. Someday you never do.
So I kind of secretly hope that my house burns down and then just relieves me of all the responsibility of going through stuff.
Minimalism.
Right. Nothing I can do. Burn down.
Well, and you know, when we were threatened with fires here and you start loading up your car with your essentials and you realize how few of those there really are. And the rest of it is literally replaceable. It's kind of interesting.
Like you need your wallet, your keys, your computer.
Some pictures.
But even my computer's on Dropbox. All my files are on the cloud, so I don't know. I don't need anything.
That's great.
Good story.
Yeah. All right. So you don't need any New Year's resolutions, is what we're learning. All right. So
no, I'm thinking in terms of like politically. I'm thinking in terms of just pushback, like just saying "fuck you" everything. And I feel that way a little bit personally too. I guess that would be my one thing is like just not taking any shit. I'm tired of
we have to stop taking shit. And the Mitt Romney. I was going to do Mitt Romney later, but he comes out with this op-ed against Trump, and it's like, could you play into the hands of those types of people anymore?
No kidding.
I mean, Trump is criticized by everybody, including his own side. What's new about what you just did? Like, he's so brave and edgy.
Question?
Oh my God. Romney is like, hey, everybody, I'm regular.
That's the equivalent of, we're going to talk about this later, that's the equivalent of that Warren drinking beer, right?
No,
it's like these old
let's play that
codgers.
Now. We'll get into the Mitt thing next.
The old codgers coming out trying to seize the reins of, the cultural narrative or something with these really lame takes that everyone sees through as stupid.
So if you didn't see this yet, Elizabeth Warren did a live stream from Instagram. By the way, it's funny because it's Instagram, even though like she's not on goddamn Instagram. Like that's where the kids are. So she goes to Instagram rather than, I don't know, Twitter or Facebook or any of these other or YouTube live stream. No, she's on Instagram, and you have to watch it. So please go Google Elizabeth Warren beer, because it is so awkward. It is like her physical movements are so awkward, but I'm just going to play a little bit. I think you can kind of get a taste for what's going on in this video. She's trying to show everybody the human side of her.
And by the way, to set it up though a little bit, Cortez had an Instagram, right, where she was like in her living room just like making food or something, talking. So I think this is okay.
Well, Cortez can do it because she's the right age.
Yeah, it was natural.
Yeah.
Gnawing in the background.
She's talking about her dog. Hang on. What the heck just happened?
The reason for that is that Bailey is in the kitchen. Say
That's
hello,
her dog.
Bailey. Say hello. Yeah. He says hello with his tail.
See, everybody, I have a dog. I'm a regular person.
Sweet boy.
My dog loves me.
That's our Bailey. And
You could be Hitler and your dog would love you. So it just doesn't really.
Doesn't say anything, right?
Okay.
waxes tail. Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
Right?
Like she drinks beer. This is the first thing on her mind.
Listen to the way. Hold on a second. I'm going to get me a beer. Like, she doesn't talk like that either. Get me a beer?
I'm going to get me a beer.
Is she not college educated? I thought she taught at Harvard. She's getting a beer.
Hey, my husband Bruce is now in here. You want a beer?
No, I'll pass on the beer.
See if you can hear this awkward hug between these two.
So, this is my sweetie.
Hello.
And I'm crazy.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for being.
I don't know if you can hear the patting. The hug is like the two of them just patting each other. Pat, 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 pat. See if you can hear that. Because that's what's awkward about this hug, too. It's not like a real hug. It's like if I met you and I just walked and we're hugging and I'm just like pat, 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 right? That's an uncomfortable hug. Let's see if I can play it.
You want a beer?
No, I'll pass on the beer for now.
You sure?
Listen to the patting.
So, this is my sweetie.
Hello.
And I'm crazy.
Hear the patting?
I love you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, enjoy your beer.
Who've we got here so far?
Okay, so that's really it.
We need to Rostify her by 17%.
No shit. Focus groups. Honestly, I mean, they did that with Hillary too. Like, they try to make these people something that they aren't. These people just need to be who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I think she'd get votes for being the creepy, crazy, totalitarian bitch that she is. People want that. Stop.
There's a market for that.
Yeah. Stop pretending to be a beer drinking, dog loving, husband loving. I mean, that was so cringeworthy, that whole thing. Go watch it.
It's like a porn fetish. You know, no matter what the fetish is, there's some porn site out there for it. Like, there's some market for Elizabeth Warren. You know,
she got elected. And
yeah.
She doesn't hide. I mean, she can't hide her true colors. The way she talks, everything about her is so awful. The people who voted for her are horrible people.
Ugh. God, she's gross.
She is. She's horrible.
I love it.
Okay, so Mitt Romney comes out with I should say, the government shutdown. I think Trump is going to end up making some kind of compromise because I don't think the Dems are going to move an inch. I really don't, until he does. And I don't know what form it's going to take, but it's going to have to be, I really don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of pressure on him to compromise. And if he does, though, it's over because it was his main campaign promise.
Yeah, it's the end of his presidency.
Yeah,
this is it.
That would be.
I mean, they couldn't do anything for 2 years while he had control, and now they're staging this.
That.
But
like, why
whatever.
didn't he? And he said in a tweet that he was promised wall funding when he signed that big omnibus bill. And remember back when he signed that, we're all like, "There's no wall funding in there." We're all like, "What the heck? Why did he do that?"
Yeah, I'm getting a little tired of it. I mean, you know,
he doesn't know what he's doing. He's being played by people in Washington.
Exactly. And that's the thing. The things I dislike about him are the opposite things that other people dislike him for. You know, I just don't think he's being effective because he's just not getting it done. And he's not surrounding himself, I think, with people he's just not very smart. I mean, they promised me wall funding. It's like, come on, dude. Really?
Right. They lied to him.
Just get it done.
Shock.
$5 billion. I mean, these people pass out $1 billion like candy in DC.
Didn't $5 billion go to that Solyndra green energy company that went?
Yeah, it was $500 million. Sure.
Oh, I thought it was $5 billion.
No, but the point. I mean,
yeah, $5 billion is aid? Nothing in a $4 trillion budget.
Is probably $5 billion. I mean, yeah.
So
it's just disgusting.
Yeah, he's not getting it done. He had 2 years with a supermajority, and he couldn't pass Obamacare repeal. And I realized that McCain was a big problem. Well, he died, and then Trump had 3 months.
Yeah, what have they been doing for the last 6 months?
I mean, after McCain died, they needed to get their shit together and pass a bunch of stuff, and they didn't.
I really think that the Republicans are better as a minority party because they're so feckless. They don't want the responsibility of having passed anything that they can be criticized for. That's how awful they are. So then when the Democrats propose something, then they can say, "Oh, that's horrible. We got to oppose this. We got to fight it." You just give us more money and we'll fight against these horrible Democrats.
Yeah.
And then when they win, they do nothing. It's just, I'm so sick of it.
There's just horrible. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so then Mitt Romney, who's coming into the Senate, he got elected as a senator. He's... I hate Mitt Romney. I hate him.
I'm going to make the noise, the Louis C.K. noise.
That's exactly how I feel about him. He wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post about how Trump's character is so terrible, and then he proceeded to basically just criticize his policy decisions. I mean, it was like weird. He's terrible because he's pulling troops out of Syria and Afghanistan. Basically. That's bad character. So...
Well, like, this is your first order of business.
Yeah.
Is you get elected as a Republican senator, and with all the stuff going on, from these culture wars, which are really deep and, threaten free speech and, the immigration issue and all the things going on that really divide the Republicans and the left, and with the possibility of, like, just full-out socialism coming from these people, your first order of business is attacking Trump's character.
Yeah, you have people on the scene.
What a lame take.
You have people on the scene like Ocasio-Cortez. You have people on the scene, socialists like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. You have Hillary Clinton, the corrupt, unindicted criminal. And Romney, all he cares about is Trump. And I don't really even understand what's politically expedient about this op-ed. Like, what is this going to get him?
Right. I was thinking about it. I mean, I was thinking it's like his way of trying to dissociate himself or create this,
he already won his
new
election.
kind of...
Why?
But no, I mean, I think he's trying to take control of the Republican Party back. I think this is his way of like, this is like the shot across the bow that...
Oh, he's trying to be a leader.
I'm coming to Washington, and I'm taking over the Republican Party for the Mormon good guys from this cretinous, douchebag Trump. And by the way, he has bad character. Yeah, really,
I didn't get elected president, but I almost did, and therefore I should be leading the Senate.
Come on. What a jackass.
Is a loser. And he destroyed it for us. Like, we had 4 years of Obama and we were suffering. And the economy was in the tank. Like, so much was wrong. Benghazi happened and dude couldn't even get elected because he wouldn't attack Obama. Focus groups and Karl Rove told him, you got to be nice, you got to be civil. And he lost. And we had 4 more years of that guy. And further race, 4 more years of Obama is not nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really hurt our country and our culture. Look where we are in terms of everybody being so angry. That's from Obama. So, all right. Thanks, Mitt. Shut up, Mitt. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what a loser thinks. All right. Last topic is I want to talk about Patreon. So I closed my Patreon account as of December 31st. And I did it knowing, that I was 2 days away from getting my little money payout. But I wanted it to affect his Patreon's fourth quarter. I know they're going to have to report the number of accounts they have and their revenues fourth quarter to their stockholders.
Sure.
And I wanted my exodus and hopefully a lot of other people's exodus to count in the fourth quarter. So they look really bad. And I cannot wait for their reports to come out. I can't wait. Before I closed my account, I lost about 25% of my revenue.
Just because people were naturally
people were just
pulling
leaving
off of Patreon.
Yeah.
Great.
And then I closed my account, and not only did I have patrons, but I also I was a patron to a couple of other people. So Patreon, you're not getting my money anymore. And I've listened to all these things. If it's kind of fun research to do. I think maybe my favorite thing was Matt Christensen did a phone call with their trust and safety head, whatever her name is.
Oh, so good.
And he transcribed it. And Sargon of Akkad, the guy who was kicked off, who started all of this, he recreated it where he played Matt Christensen and another guy, Z from YouTube, played the trust and safety head, this woman. And it's
Jacqueline Hart.
Jacqueline Hart, thank you. And it's like really good. It's fun to listen to because it's
just keep in mind, Sonny. Do you remember her title? She's the Trust and Safety Team Coordinator.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, icky.
Talk about an Orwellian title.
Very Orwellian. So, they just keep doubling and tripling down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that that we really don't like your content or creators, but it was just so weaselly, the whole thing. She just wouldn't come out and say it. And he kept he kept putting her in a corner.
Right.
Just to get her to admit, you don't like me. You don't like our politics. That's why you should. Well, no, not exact.
Right.
It was so creepy.
And you're safe. You're safe with it. Just call us, and before you post something that's questionable, just call and ask us, and we'll tell you.
Just ask us. We'll tell you exactly. And at one point, she was talking about Carl Bender Sargon, and she said that if he had only basically she was saying if he had showed contrition and just sort of apologized for what he said, and she used the word reform, if he had reformed,
right,
but he didn't, he was pretty much unapologetic, so and isn't that sick? That's what they wanted.
Yeah,
they just wanted him to bend the knee.
They wanted him on his knees begging for forgiveness, and he lost $150,000 in annual revenues. Losing that Patreon account. They took away his income, basically. And, under false pretenses, he spent 4 years building up his income on Patreon, advertising for them. And they just pulled it out from under him with no warning and no reason, totally arbitrarily, not according to their terms of service. And then she says in this call basically that their rules are just arbitrary and subjective, that they're just going to be looking and watching everybody. And when they decide to kick someone off, they just do it. And Matt Christensen is like, can you see that that's like a problem for me? She's like,
just call, Sonny. Just call and ask if it's okay.
Before you post something, like everything, anywhere on the internet, because that's what they're saying that they're monitoring. Before you tweet, run it by me, Jacqueline Hart.
Yeah.
Or we're going to take your
trust and
away.
safety team coordinator.
But as I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the podcast, there were some things that she said that indicated that there is actually pressure, and maybe not specific pressure, but definitely pressure from payments, from their payment processor. So
Absolutely.
Is this PayPal? Is this MasterCard? She's not explicit, but as soon as people started going over to Subscribestar, PayPal and Stripe both deplatformed Subscribestar. Not a political company. Just, they made up some reason like, oh, it's a guy from Russia, so we're going to deplatform them. I mean, it was like freaking weird. And it was so obviously coordinated to prop up Patreon and to ruin the alternative. Like, we all would have been there within a week. We all would have been on Subscribestar, migrating all of our patrons over there. And I mean everyone. So I'm sure people have stayed on Patreon longer. I closed my account, but I know some people use that money to support their families and pay their bills and stuff. So I understand that not everyone has done that. But, then as they're seeing, oh, there's this alternative, then this is a conspiracy. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. There's no question that this is a coordinated conspiracy. They took down the only competitive alternative left because they'd already destroyed 2 other competitive alternatives.
Right, because ultimately it comes down to the payment processing.
Yeah.
And MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal. And if they're not willing to process your payments or they put pressure on you, then it doesn't matter if you have an alternative to Patreon.
No, and
because you can't process payments. So what are you supposed to do?
Think about this in today's day and age. What business can you even run without taking credit cards? I mean, besides being a stripper.
A lemonade stand? Yeah, maybe a hooker, drug dealer.
Yeah, there's no business that isn't literally at the mercy of, what is it, 3 companies?
Right.
And MasterCard, Visa, American Express. So there's a great video that you all should watch. It's by this guy, YouTuber, Short Fat Otaku. And the title is MasterCard is the Final Boss. And I think there's some articles and stuff that he got his information from. So it's kind of a long video.
I posted that on the Rational Capitalist Facebook page,
on
too.
My
if you want to find it.
It's on my Facebook page, Sonny Lohman. And he goes through just a lot of evidence of what is MasterCard getting out of this. And basically he says, look, they're acting like this is some sort of, they're some sort of social justice like heroes, because they're pro-economic migrant and they're for this what's called financial inclusion, which is all about, these third worlders, they're on a cash basis. They don't have the conveniences and the luxuries and the life of being hooked into the financial system. And we need to help them by getting them hooked in. And they're for this sort of global, financial, digital, data-heavy financial inclusion. Yeah. And they act like this is good for this third worlder, but what it really is it's a huge market that hasn't been tapped yet. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're talking billions of people who don't have a credit card.
Right.
And they want them to have a credit card, and they want to move to a cashless society because that means that they will then be in control of everybody's
right, because
money.
if they can control and monitor your behavior and shut you down for, buying certain things, then they control the world.
Yeah, if they decide tomorrow that they're not going to allow people to buy guns, just think how hard it will become to buy a gun. You can't do it online. You can't, I don't know if you can buy a gun online, but I mean,
what was interesting about that video,
you couldn't if they decide to cut off gun manufacturers. I mean, like gun manufacturers no longer allowed to order supplies with a credit card. I mean, just imagine what they could do to any industry they decide to go after.
And what the video showed is that, originally, I think in the last podcast we talked about Operation Choke Point, that Obama administration operation where they were sicking like the FDIC and bank regulators on payment processors and basically trying to get them, threatening them with regulation if they didn't shut down businesses that they didn't like gun merchants.
It was actually, that article was, they were threatening banks to debank people that they had a moral problem with, which were gun manufacturers, to close those people's bank accounts.
Right. You can't
Not even payment processing, but no banks. And it wasn't threatening with more regulation. It was threatening to use the regulations to shut those banks down. Yes.
But my point, though, too, is that MasterCard and Visa, which are part of that system.
Yeah, they're part of that system.
They would also come under pressure because there's been some discussion, if not actual suits filed where, when one of the shooters, he purchased guns, right, using a credit card. So there was people that were threatening to sue MasterCard or Visa or whatever for allowing this guy to buy, the guns with the credit card. So now we're going to have, this idea that, well, it's the credit card company's fault for allowing the guy to buy the gun who went and shot the guy. So under that sort of guise, they're trying to claim they need to monitor, people. And what we found out from that video that we just talked about was, maybe they are getting pressure from the government in some way, or there's some legitimate threat of liability, but that's not really what's driving them. They have this woman, I forgot her name, Sonny, it was in the video, but she's an executive at
Vice Chairman of MasterCard.
She's gallivanting around, and she's a full-on SJW.
Yep.
Who's trying to take MasterCard down this.
It's worse than SJW. Path. She's a globalist, pro-economic migrant, one world government, pro-EU, pro-open immigration for the entire world.
Yes. Anti-cash.
Anti-cash. Like, she is that elite globalist, that person that
George Soros,
yes,
open society.
She's one of those.
No open borders. Everyone just has a credit card. We monitor your behavior, sort of along the lines of that Chinese social credit score system where they're going to monitor what you do and how you behave online, and then that'll determine, whether you can rent a hotel room or a car or whatever.
And this is pure James Taggart shit, because these are government monopolies that are trying to improve their market and get more money. And, who knows what sort of government money or nonprofit money they're pouring into these third worlders that, we'll give them a credit card and you give them $500 each on that credit card. And now they all have a credit card and we get the fees, and we've pulled $500 each out of the U.S. government. Like, who knows what sort of intricate little webs they're weaving to give aid and MasterCards to every third worlder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of stuff, like James Taggart and Atlas Shrugged doing a deal and sounding like, we're bringing, something, special stuff to the Mexican people. But really, he thinks he's just padding his own wallet. He doesn't really.
Yeah, there's a definite financial incentive.
Yeah.
But there's also, and if it was just a financial incentive, like they wanted, to bring more people into the modern economy, that might be laudable at some level. But
that would be cleaner
really
for sure.
What they're really trying to do, and that's why you have to be careful when you hear these arguments for cashless society, because what they're going to try and do is say, we don't need cash. That's just, the only people that really use cash, Sonny, are drug dealers and terrorists and bad guys. So we really just need to get away from cash and everyone just use credit cards.
What are you afraid of if you have nothing to hide?
Yeah, exactly. And so,
now we
once
know.
they do that,
they could shut down your life and your access to money. If we ever go cashless, they could just decide to totally unperson you. You couldn't buy food. You couldn't buy anything.
Yeah, what could you do? I mean, can you get electricity to your house? Can you go to a grocery store? Can you get what can you get?
We have been operating on the assumption that these types of infrastructure companies, like the electric companies and the Visa company and those banking and that sort of thing, that they don't judge who you are as a person. You get to have a bank account if you just fill out the paperwork and open it up. Unless you're a terrorist or you're a mafia, like unless you're actually harming people with that money and the government can come after you that way. But,
and there's a process for determining that. I mean, that's warrant and.
Right. A judge has to make that decision, and it's not the company itself making that decision. So now, it's just really creepy what's going on. And it really is like when Visa, MasterCard, and American Express can decide that that Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, can't have a Patreon account, can't have $150,000 in that income. When they can decide that, that's like PG&E shutting off your electricity because they don't like your political view. PG&E is a private company, but it's a government monopoly. Go try to open a Visa or a MasterCard or an American Express. There's a reason that there's only 3 and there's no new ones.
Right.
There's
massive
no way
barriers
that
to
you
entry.
could open one of those companies today.
No, you don't just go open your own credit card company.
So, I don't know. We got to get hip to this. This is pure fascistic corporate. Like, I don't even know what the word corporatism, whatever, but it's fascism. It's companies and government working in concert to crush the opposition, whether it's financial or political. And it's all the same for them. This Ann Cairns, vice chairman of MasterCard, she wants the globalists to win elected office because they support her agenda, the pro-economic migrant agenda. So, I mean, this is not free. This is not free markets.
No.
This is not a free
No, we do not
society.
have a free market.
So
this is fascism.
Yeah. So the fact that the payment processors are at the bottom of this, I mean, Patreon is guilty, no question. And I have canceled my account. I also closed my MasterCard. And I wrote them a letter. And I wrote Patreon a letter. And I encourage everybody to do that. I mean, I think, and then I think letters schmetter. I think I'll go on Twitter and go on a rant about MasterCard and tag them and stuff, because that seems to really bug people when you tweet about them. They're such second-handers. So do that, because watch these videos, get informed, and do that, because this is payment processing controlling now who gets to say what, and they don't want freedom lovers to speak because that's not their agenda. And
that's right.
And it's not like it. People are like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist" or whatever. But there's just a ton of evidence, and I kind of laugh.
It's not a theory.
It's not a
this
theory.
This isn't a theory.
Right?
This is reality. This is
reality.
Conspiracy fact.
That's right.
This is what's happening.
This is what's happening. Wake up. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll see an article a year after I've concluded something about something, and I'll see an article where someone finally admits that, whatever, or they have evidence or they have an email or whatever, and it's like, we don't need a smoking gun all the time. This is the OJ fallacy, OJ is guilty. Allegedly. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
I'm not allowed to say that in public. That's like harassment or something like that. Defamation. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, epistemologically, you don't need to have an email from Ann Cairns saying, I want you to deplatform Sargon of Akkad to Patreon. Like, you don't need to know that to know that Patreon, they admitted it. They experienced pressure from the payment processors. We know that MasterCard was behind them deplatforming Jihad Watch and Robert Spencer, who runs Jihad Watch and is a big fighter against Islamists. He was kicked off Patreon because of MasterCard, and they admitted that. Mm-hmm. So then they admit in this case that they are experiencing pressure from the payment companies. So, which is probably true, but they're all passing the buck because they all believe this. I mean, they're all politically aligned. They're all and then they have these justifications. Yeah. They always go to the most extreme case, right? Like, well, if we allow this, then what if ISIS is trying to set up an account? We have a right to ban ISIS, right? So they take an extreme example of like a terrorist or something like that, and then they say, they use that to justify discretion, and then they take that discretion and apply it to anyone they disagree with politically to shut them down. And, all these companies are ideologically aligned, and they're all colluding to shut down people that they're ideologically opposed to. And then in the background somewhere is, a government stick, right, which is threatening these people. That's true. These Democrats are totally capable of that. Totally capable of that. I mean, look what they did to Kavanaugh in front of your face. Yeah. The lies and deception, and what are they doing behind the scenes? Right. And until we have a real free market, in some fantasy world like 500 years from now when we have a free banking system, the fact that these companies are heavily, heavily regulated and controlled by the government and the Federal Reserve, just like utilities are heavily regulated, we can't have a situation where utilities have a trust and safety team and they determine on their discretion whether or not someone with the wrong who gets electricity or water. It's the same sort of situation here where I think you need legal protection from
this kind of behavior. We cannot have
either these companies must be freed up, or we have to have some sort of, and I don't know how we get this without the full House and Senate. You have to have legislation that protects the consumer from political persecution by companies that are subject to government, that level of government regulation. And if MasterCard is then found to be pressuring Patreon to dump somebody, then that should have serious consequences.
Right. Because if they're going to be heavily regulated, then, in one direction, then you also have to just like if we're going to decide that we're going to have a utility, it's heavily regulated by the government and there's no competition because there can't be competition, then there has to be consumer protections as part of that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say,
right,
well, we're going to heavily regulate this company and essentially grant them a monopoly and have this sort of like tacit fascistic control over them. But, hey, they're a free company. They can do whatever they want. So if they want to ban you because they don't like your ideas, then they can. No, it can't be that way. You have to have, if you're going to regulate them, they have to be regulated, and you have to protect consumers from those kinds of actions, and particularly from these like obvious breaches of their own conditions. And I can't believe that that's not a lawsuit yet.
Right.
I know there has been some lawsuits that have not gone anywhere, but there's, if we can't fight them
I think Carl Benjamin would have a case against Patreon for sure. Because also,
absolutely,
not only did their terms and conditions not talk about, reference only stuff going on their platform, and obviously he was supposedly taken down for something he did off platform, but the CEO in public, based on another similar deplatforming of Lauren Southern, he said on the Dave Rubin show, we're not going to, our terms of service are just for what happens on the platform. We're not watching what you're doing on Twitter. He specifically said that. So whatever the terms are, like, he was out in public saying that and misleading everybody. So that, I'm sorry, but there's some liability there. Especially you're dealing with a lot of money. I mean, $150,000 a year, that's a lot of money to lose overnight with no warning.
And by the way, there's this, people should be...
Wait a sec. Patreon's not giving Carl Benjamin $150,000. His patrons are.
Right.
So he decided that the patrons couldn't give him that money.
Right.
I just want to be clear. Like, I'm sure he brought a lot of those people to the platform. They took away his money, and it wasn't their right to do that. This was people that he brought to that platform, almost like you're bringing someone to PayPal to pay an invoice or whatever, and then to just cancel all those transactions. I mean, it's so unconscionable. It's so awful. And that's why, of course, people are freaking out. And Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin are going to get off on January 15th, which is kind of funny. I thought it's like Patreon pays out once a month. They pay out on like the second or third of the month. So it lets them get their January payment. And I don't know why the 15th and not like the 31st. That would make more sense to me, that they would just take January and then that's it. But they said January 15th. So, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they discussed that in the video. That's a great video. If you want to talk about that. But
they did a video talking about what they're doing. That they're getting
Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson. Yeah, it was excellent. And they discussed the philosophy behind this, too.
Yeah, and they discussed that this new platform that they're working on, that it's really not ready. The user interface isn't any good. But they also have to figure out this payments problem. But I am hearing a rumor that Subscribestar is going to be up and running soon. I really honestly don't know how. I don't know how.
By the way, there's this... Sorry, go ahead, sir.
If PayPal and Stripe have deplatformed them, I mean, and probably because of pressure from MasterCard, like, what is Subscribestar going to do? Only take American Express? So, I don't know. We'll see.
Check out this website called changetheterms.org.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard? There's this is the real nexus, as a friend says, of this movement towards censoring and shutting down these platforms. It's called changetheterms.org. And they're going after web hosting companies and social media, payment processors. They're going after everyone, and this is a very concerted effort.
Funded, millions and millions of dollars are being put into the effort to deplatform people like us, people like Carl Benjamin, people like Jordan Peterson, probably Dave Rubin, anybody fighting for free speech. Anybody fighting for free speech. Literally, that's it. That's what we're down to. That's what bonds us. It doesn't, libertarians, religious conservatives, regular old conservatives, classical liberals, all of these people are bonded by free speech, and they are all getting deplatformed. I got to say, the person I admire the most is Sam Harris, who got off, he was like a top 10 earner on Patreon, and he closed his account. He was one of the first. So good for him. But anyway, the changetheterms.org. And guess who one of the nonprofits is behind that?
Who?
Our old friend, the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Of course. God, they're so twisted.
Yes.
Yep, it's George Soros, the SPLC. I mean, this is an organized, very well-funded, coordinated campaign that involves not only private efforts, but efforts, I'm sure, at lobbying these organs of government that have regulatory control over some of this stuff. And, when you start going for web hosting and, payment processors and banking, you're starting to get into, the real, these aren't just you're not just boycotting a deli or something like that. I mean, you're talking about denying infrastructure level service to people.
Right.
And, you're at a whole new
Republican,
level.
you can't drive on the road or have a phone or have electricity. That's the level of this.
Yep.
You can't do business. You can't process money. And here are the companies that run this, changetheterms.org. Center for American Progress, of course. Color of Change. Free Press, if you can freaking believe it. What a oxymoron that
Orwell. Yeah.
Southern Poverty Law Center. National Hispanic Media Coalition, and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, or something like that. And then they have a list of companies that support reducing hateful activities. That's what they're calling this. And it's all just, I don't know. Advocates for Youth, African American Ministers in Action, Arab American Association of New York, Muslim Advocates, One America, Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. It's all just gross, progressive, fringe. Yemeni Student Association? What? I mean, I'm sure they're good people. Yemeni Student Association.
Yeah, these are the people that are going to determine what you can consume in your life,
Right. Anyway, it feels like a lot. It feels like a big hurdle. I don't know about you, but...
Well, no, this is
big.
good. This is good. Like what we said was, what this is doing is it's exposing the two sides, which is not really even, we're just trying to get the platform to discuss politics again. We're just discussing now, kind of the issue of free speech and even the ability to discuss politics.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. It's amazing. And what's uniting this is you've got a pretty diverse group of, players, like what you just said, that are just for free speech and the ability to for that right. And I think the fact that there is this group
not just that right, but that cultural value. And I want to be clear, it's the right, but it's also Americans standing up and saying this is important. Being able to discuss politics or whatever, being able to joke about anything is a critical American value. But we also have, in the case of MasterCard and these companies, these are government companies, so it is freedom of speech. It is the First Amendment issue.
But I love the fact that we have the moral high ground. We're the ones who are fighting for freedom of speech. These are the Nazis that we're fighting against.
Yep.
And, these are people that would burn your book. These are the people that would light a big bonfire if they could and burn, burn the books and burn the witches. This is the kind of mentality you're fighting.
Just look at the two videos that were viral this last week. The trans dude female who walks into a toy shop, a GameStop, and when they refer to him as sir, and by the way, he's a very masculine. This is not a trans who's like passing. He's a huge guy with a purse. And someone calls him sir, probably by accident, like completely, innocently. And he has a screaming meltdown in front of children, knocks down a display. I mean,
oh my God. He's sick. He's mentally ill.
And then the other video is a guy goes in to buy some vape juice for his wife, and he's wearing a Trump T-shirt, and the person won't serve him. And when he
freaks out,
when he starts filming him, and by the way, this is an employee, not a shop owner. The employee decides, I'm not going to serve you because you're wearing a Trump shirt, not the owner of the business, who then later apologized, and said the guy's fired the SJW freak. But the point is that on the video, the guy starts recording him and says, so let me just get this straight in on video. You won't serve me. And he says, you're a racist. I won't serve people with your racist ideas, because he supports the president of the United States. And when the guy says, I can't believe this, the guy throws a total screaming temper tantrum.
Yeah, child.
And you don't see these videos of people on the right.
No.
Where's the viral video of the person on the right having a screaming meltdown fit at being confronted with an idea they don't like, or someone using a word they don't like, or where's the screaming right-sider who hates free speech and is having an emotional reaction to the free speech of others on videotape and now viral all over the internet? Where is that video? Because I haven't seen a single one.
Right. It's a great point. It really isolates the essence of the psychology of the totalitarian,
That's right.
the emotional, unhinged, deranged psycho who's so afraid of words and so insecure and so unreasonable at a sort of a fundamental level that they can't even conduct themselves civilly, to conduct a simple transaction, or to just say, excuse me, would you please say this or say that?
They don't think you have a right to exist and a right to your own ideas. They don't think that. And you wonder how people pulled the trigger in Nazi Germany. We've always said, oh, geez, how does it get to that point? And who are these people that could actually pull the trigger? Those are those people. Yeah, right.
They hate you.
They hate you.
Because they associate you with...
How dare you call me sir?
They're associating you collectively with their oppressor. They have this nebulous idea of being oppressed. And, if you're part of the collective that's oppressing them, they just want to kill you. They want to lash out at it. Yep. They don't think of you as an individual or someone with rights. They just think you're part of what's hurting them. And so you need to be destroyed. That's the way they think. Oppressors versus oppressed. It's very binary. So either you're oppressing them or you're not. And, there's no neutral state where we're all free and we're all individuals. No, there's just oppressors and oppressed, and they want the reins of power so they can control and lash out at the people that are hurting them or they feel are oppressing them. And that's the extent of their thinking. I see when you see these emotional reactions, you're seeing concrete evidence of it.
Right. So the lines are being drawn. You have a lot of liberals like Eric Weinstein, his brother, Sam Harris, Dave Rubin, Carl Benjamin. And then you have people on the right, like Dennis Prager. I mean, who would have thought that Dennis Prager...
and Adam Carolla.
and Dennis Prager, who probably is like against gay marriage, and Dave Rubin and Sam Harris have more in common and are on the same side politically from everybody else. And that is a great thing. It is a great thing to see that. But I think, if, for those of you out there who haven't chosen a side, which I doubt if you listen to our podcast, I'm sure that you have. Who would listen to us who hadn't, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
They'd be trying to shut us down.
That's right. They'd be
They're
sending
probably
reports to YouTube.
Writing MasterCard right now.
Right.
Yeah. Reporting us.
Too late. I already canceled my credit card.
We're not reformed.
And my Patreon. I don't get any money anymore. Ha! So I don't have an alternative setup, and I'm just going to coast and do my show. We're still going to do the show every week. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to do all the work, and we'll just wait and see what happens. I'll get on. I do have a PayPal account, and you can go to sunnyloman.com, houseofsunny.tv, and there is a button there for donating. But why don't you just wait until I figure out what I'm going to do? Maybe in the next month or so, I'll figure something out.
We're going to create a courier service where vans are going to go around the country and just pick up gold and cash.
I was going to
just dump it at your doorstep.
I was going to say, it's the time to go back to checks. I have a P.O. box, everybody. I do, actually. The address is House of Sunny, and the address is 3109 West 50th Street, number 202 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55410. I have a P.O. box there. Send me checks. Then,
yeah, man.
Because fuck the man, right?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Or gold. I take gold.
Meet you in the parking lot. Have unmarked bills.
I always wanted to be counterculture, but this is ridiculous.
That's where it's going.
Yeah, that's where it's going. All right, that's it for the show today. We are 20 minutes over. Can you believe that?
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. I knew it was going to be a long show because we had a lot to cover, but we really appreciate those of you who were our patrons for 2018. It was great. And we hope that you will join up again when we figure out what we're going to do. Call in a joke for next week, 707-681-5834. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to the House of Sunny podcast. Go check out Sunny on YouTube at her channel, House of Sunny. Everything Sunny does is fan-funded, and because she's likely to get kicked off and demonetized on every platform at some point, please support her over at patreon.com/House of Sunny. Become one of Sunny's elite squad and have access to behind-the-scenes footage, t-shirts, special events, and more.